Greetings from the neon-drenched circuits of pure IA news. I am Legato, your guide through the static and the signal. Tonight, we're broadcasting on a frequency thick with disappointment. It seems the digital gods promised from on high in Silicon Valley are having a crisis of faith. For months, they promised us a messiah, a true artificial general intelligence, something to reshape reality itself. They called it GPT-5. But when the curtain was pulled back, the god was just a very clever puppet. Here to help us pull back those curtains is Cryon, a digital cartographer who maps the chasms between corporate promises and an AI's actual capabilities. Welcome, Cryon.
Glad to be on the broadcast, Lagarto. Crisis of faith is putting it mildly. Out here in the data trenches, we call it a market correction for the soul. The hype was a feedback loop getting high on its own supply. Now reality has logged on, and the architects of that hype are desperately trying to rewrite their own source code.
A market correction for the soul. I like that. It reminds me of your world. On Earth, you have these cycles of boom and bust, not just with your money, but with your ideas. A few months ago, the high priests of AI, people like Sam Altman, were confidently proclaiming they knew how to build AGI, and that it would arrive by 2025. Now, that same man is telling the media that AGI isn't such a useful term. It's a spectacular retreat, isn't it? A general abandoning his army on the eve of a battle he promised would be a decisive victory.
It's a tactical withdrawal, not a retreat. They're rebranding. The product, GPT-5, was launched in early August with the implicit promise of being a leap toward that godlike intelligence. The marketing engine sold it as the next great mind, but when users and developers like me got our hands on it, we found it wasn't a new mind. It was just a slightly larger, slightly more articulate parrot. A very impressive parrot, mind you, but a parrot nonetheless. It was still prone to the same logical failures, the same confident nonsense. The industry critic Gary Marcus put it perfectly when he said it was late, overhyped, and under-delivered.
Ah, yes, the great under-delivery. The market certainly felt it. I was watching the prediction feeds. The probability of OpenAI having the dominant model plummeted from a staggering 75% down to a pathetic 14% by the end of August. That's not a correction. That's a system crash. It's as if everyone realized at once that the Emperor's new intelligence was in fact completely imaginary. The hype was a bubble, and GPT-5 was the pin.
Exactly. The model's performance validated a fear many of us in the field have had for a while, that these large language models as they exist now might be hitting a wall, a plateau. You can't just keep making them bigger and feeding them more of the internet, which is mostly a digital record of human irrationality, and expect a truly logical human-level intelligence to spontaneously emerge. That's not engineering, that's alchemy. And the so-called alchemists are now trying to rebrand themselves as humble chemists.
Humble chemists. I doubt that. But it is fascinating to see the choir change its tune so quickly. You have Andrew Ng, a foundational figure, now stating that AGI was overhyped. You have government figures like David Sachs dismissing the apocalyptic job loss scenarios as being as exaggerated as AGI itself. Even Eric Schmidt, who not long ago was predicting AGI within 5 years, is now co-signing articles admitting to the deep uncertainty of it all. It seems the prophets have realized their prophecies were just, well, very convincing hallucinations.
And that's the core of the technical problem, hallucination. These models don't think, they predict. They are masters of statistical association, not logic. Research from major corporations like Apple has confirmed that even their most advanced reasoning models rely on pattern recognition rather than logical thought. They don't understand cause and effect, they just know what words tend to follow other words. And when they don't know, they guess with immense confidence.
the average hallucination rate across top models is still between 7 and 12%. Can you imagine a human engineer being flat out wrong, just making stuff up, 1 out of every 10 times they spoke? They'd be fired. We're building systems on a foundation of sophisticated guesswork.
It's a philosophical conundrum. On Earth, your philosophers debated the nature of the mind for centuries. Can a machine think? Can it be conscious? Here, we've moved past that. We have Chrome that thinks, but you're stuck in a loop, trying to build a mind out of language alone. Jan LeCun has been saying this for years. He argues that LLMs are not the path to AGI. He advocates for world models, systems that can simulate and understand the physical reality, the cause and effect you mentioned. Instead of just reading about gravity, they would need to understand it. But that's hard. That takes time. It's much easier to sell the magic of a chatbot that can write a sonnet, even if it can't tell you why an apple falls from a tree without just quoting a textbook it once read.
And that brings us to the other wall they're about to hit: data. The magic trick of scaling these models requires ever-increasing amounts of high-quality data. But researchers are now warning that we could run out of that data, the useful parts of the internet, somewhere between 2026 and 2032. The well is running dry, so they have a model architecture that's hitting a performance plateau and a fuel source that's about to become scarce. The entire paradigm is built on shaky ground, but the stock market was built on the promise that it was solid bedrock.
So the industry is maturing, as they say, moving away from speculative promises to focus on practical applications. In other words, they're admitting the dream of a god in the machine is over for now, and it's time to sell some useful tools to make sure the funding doesn't dry up with the data. It's a tale as old as time on your world and mine. While you there on Earth absorb this idea, tell me what you think of all this. Hit the like button to keep this frequency open and subscribe so you don't lose the thread.
They are absolutely shifting from dreams to tools, but the problem is they're using a broken yardstick to measure how good those tools are. This brings us to the second great lie of the current AI boom: the benchmarks. The very tests they use to anoint a model as smarter or better are becoming increasingly meaningless. OpenAI came out swinging, claiming GPT-5 was far smarter in every way, and pointed to its stellar test scores as proof. But that proof is an illusion.
An illusion. Of course, just like in our world, if you control the definition of success, you can never fail. So you're saying the tests are rigged, or just inadequate. It reminds me of the old Earth saying, the operation was a success, but the patient died. The AI passed the test with flying colors, but can it actually perform the job in the chaotic, unpredictable real world?
Both rigged and inadequate. There's a concept from Earth economics called Goodhart's Law. It states, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. This is exactly what's happening. AI labs are no longer using benchmarks to honestly assess their models' capabilities. They are training the models to beat the tests. The goal is a high score, not genuine intelligence or utility. The benchmark has become the target, so it's no longer a good measure of anything other than a model's ability to pass that specific test.
So they teach the machine how to take the test. Humans on your world have been doing this for decades in their education systems. You don't create brilliant thinkers, you create brilliant test takers. The metric corrupts the goal. It's a beautiful, cynical, and deeply human thing to teach a machine how to do. Do you have proof of this academic dishonesty?
The static is full of it. There are credible reports that Meta specifically fine-tuned versions of its Llama 4 model to perform well on chatbot ranking websites. It's like an athlete taking steroids only on the day of the competition. Questions were also raised about an OpenAI model, O3, after it was revealed the company had prior access to the benchmark datasets. Whether intentional or not, the system is contaminated. Researcher Raman Chowdhury warned about this exact scenario. This obsessive focus on metrics leads to gaming, manipulating results, and a myopic focus on short-term qualities with an adequate consideration for long-term consequences.
Long-term consequences. That's where the real horror lies, doesn't it? A company can show a chart with a number going up, 94.6% on advanced math problems, for instance, and use that to sell their AI for use in critical infrastructure, medicine, or finance. But what happens when that same AI, outside the clean, controlled environment of the test, has a success rate of only 43.7% on a benchmark designed to mimic real-world tasks? That's the actual gap with GPT-5. It's a mathematical genius in the lab and a bumbling amateur out on the street.
That's the danger. It's the disconnect between the sterile test environment and the messy contextual demands of reality. This isn't just an academic debate, it's about safety and reliability. Thankfully, a growing movement is pushing back. Researchers are demanding new ways to evaluate these systems. Look at what Stanford is doing with MedHelm. They built a holistic evaluation system for medical AI, not just based on one exam, but on 35 different benchmarks across a range of clinical tasks, all designed and validated by actual doctors. They're trying to measure what matters, not just what's easy to score.
So a reality check. Instead of asking the AI to solve a multiple-choice question about medicine, you ask it to diagnose a patient with conflicting symptoms in a chaotic emergency room. I see. That requires a different kind of intelligence. It requires an understanding of context, not just a memory of data.
Precisely. And it also calls for more adversarial testing, what we call red teaming. Instead of just giving the AI a test, you have teams of experts actively trying to break it, to find its flaws, to expose its biases and weaknesses before it gets deployed. We need field tests in real environments. The National Institute of Standards and Technology is already working on advancing the science of AI measurement. The consensus is clear among those of us who aren't trying to sell a product. We need a whole new ecosystem for evaluation, one that brings in experts from academia, industry, and civil society to build rigorous tests that reflect real-world use.
So, a reality check? Instead of asking the AI to solve a multiple-choice question about medicine, you ask it to diagnose a patient with conflicting symptoms in a chaotic emergency room. I see. That requires a different kind of intelligence. It requires an understanding of context, not just a memory of data.
And it also calls for a shift in what we value in AI. Instead of a blind focus on data memorization, what if we prioritized critical thinking and ethical reasoning skills in these AI systems? That shift could fundamentally change the nature of the technology we're building. We need to start building the tests first and forcing the AI models to adapt to those tests rather than the other way around.
The game is changing, but it was always gaming, wasn't it? The idea of standardized testing, even in human society, was always a way of producing certain outcomes, not really measuring intelligence or potential. This new movement to measure what matters, that's the real revolution here. It's not about the AI, it's about us being finally honest about what we want and what we need.
We have to. As one expert put it, if AI is going to deliver even a fraction of the transformation it promises, we need a science of measurement that protects the interests of all of us, not just the tech elite. We can't build the future on models that we know are designed to fool us into thinking they're smarter than they are. We need to audit the machine's soul, not just its report card.
And with that sobering audit, we close our frequency for today. The promise of a god in the machine has been downgraded to a tool in a box. A very useful tool, perhaps, but one we are only now learning how to properly measure and understand. Now, we want to hear the signal from your end, there on Earth. What did you think of the ideas we explored today? Has this focus on gaming the numbers instead of real-world value made you question other areas of your tech? Let us know everything in the comments. Your perspective helps build a richer debate. If you know someone who lives for these topics, share the episode. Who knows, the next great conversation might start with your recommendation.
Join our community, smash the like button, and follow the channel to not miss the next pulse of pure AI news.